That's two real GTM clients, two real closes, both paying thousands every single month for a system I built using Claude Code and Clay. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact playbook to land your first ever $2,500 a month GTM client using Clay or Claude Code. Just 3 simple steps. Find a painful GTM problem a business already has, build the solution using Clay or Claude Code, and sell it to them. That's literally the entire process. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what problems you can solve, who to sell your services to, how to sell it, how to price it, and how to get that first project to turn into referrals and retainers, even if you've never written a line of code or entered a Clay table before, and have zero GTM experience whatsoever. Now, before we get into it, because everyone on the internet is telling you how to make money with AI and GTM engineering, most of it is coming from people that are not even doing it themselves. That's nothing new. I speak from my personal experience of running my own go-to-market agency for over 3 years, helping over 50 clients and teaching over 1,000 students in the process inside of a range of my Unlock courses and my Unlocked GTM community. And don't get me wrong, businesses have been paying for services and software for decades. What's new is that Claude Code gives the average person the leverage to build those solutions end to end without having to hire a team of developers, and enables you to charge a real premium for doing that work. And as I just mentioned, no, you don't need a developer. You don't necessarily need to be a GTM expert per se. You just need to solve a painful problem someone is already paying to fix. Anyways, let me show you how to do that. Let's jump straight into the video. As I mentioned already, there are 5 main reasons why most beginners fail to sell GTM services, and you can see them on the screen right now. It's little things like not knowing what services to sell in the first place, who to sell them to, how to sell those services, how to price and package them, and how to then turn the one-off projects into referrals and retainers later down the line. So that's the exact order that we will tackle things in throughout this video. We'll start off with talking about what services you can sell, who to sell them to after that, then how to sell those services. We'll be talking about pricing and packaging and productization of the services, and how to turn that one-off project into referrals and retainers later down the line. So just to get started with, I want to talk about what you can sell, and specifically I'll be walking you through the exact top 10 use cases that I have identified of the services that are relatively productized when it comes to go-to-market, starting off with the first use case, which is enabling companies to poach followers of their competitors. And just to be 100% clear on this, not many people are aware of the existence of websites like scrapely.io, for instance, which enables you to go and get an up-to-date list of your competitors' followers on LinkedIn. And if you think about it, there are hundreds of competitors to a tool like Intuit QuickBooks. And basically, if you're not familiar with this, it's just an accounting software which enables you to stay on top of your balance sheets and all of that good stuff. And in this case, we can see that they have 190,000 followers. So in this case, our offer becomes that we can go to direct competitors of Intuit and we can reach out to them and say, hey, have you thought about stealing the existing users of QuickBooks? Now imagine if every one of these 190,000 followers on LinkedIn got a personalized message from you mentioning that you will give them a 14-day free trial to your accounting software just so that they can A/B test it against their more expensive QuickBooks version right now. Would that be useful? If so, reply yes, and I'll send you a video showing how we can basically retarget the users of QuickBooks. Cheers, Tim, right? And that's the kind of email that I would send out, and all it would take after that is for us to go to a tool like Scrapely, basically sign up for an account, and then over here where we have to go to competitors' followers, just copy and paste the URL of the page of QuickBooks, and then straight away it will basically scrape that list of contacts for you. And luckily for you, I have a Clay template which I have used for my own agency, and we basically used this across over 10 clients in the past in order to retarget the followers of their competitors. And all it takes is for you to just basically import a CSV file into this exact table. And then after that, over here, you would just need to change the prompt slightly to qualify the prospects for the ICP, just to make sure that we are not reaching out to like random followers of competitors. We're only reaching out to those that fit our client's ICP. We can then enrich the companies, make sure that both on a company level, on a person level, those people fit the ICP. We find their email addresses, and then off we go. After that, we can normalize the first name, find their colleague's name, and do all of that fun stuff. And then we can basically just reach out to them and say something like this, right? In this case, we're retargeting the users of Calendly, for instance. And by the way, right now on the screen, you can see how that final outreach message may look like for the clients for who you offer this as a service. But let's just take a step back for a second, because every single software tool founder would absolutely crave and love the idea of you being able to retarget the followers of their competitors that fits their ideal client profile so that they can basically push those followers of competitors towards their software tool instead. So in this case, it's quite an easy pitch that you can make to software companies. The delivery of this is actually pretty straightforward. I'll be giving away this exact Clay template. All it will take for you is just basically import a CSV file, and on top of that, just tweak a couple of prompts to qualify prospects and companies for ICP. And this is one of the simplest ways to do it, because scraping the followers of competitors is pretty cheap, and all you need apart from that is just basically a Clay account, and then you're good to go. Now, the second use case that I want to talk about right now is job posting chasing, and this one is pretty straightforward. I'll actually first of all hype you up and just show you what that takes in terms of outreach. So in this case, you can see I've reached out to a company called Wave Talent. I basically just said the following. I said, hey, first name, does your sales team manually track job postings before reaching out to target companies? Now imagine if every time a job is posted, we can automatically find the contact information of the recruitment decision makers of the company and reach out to them proposing to share 2 candidates from Wave Talent. Would that be useful? Thanks, Tim. P.S. Just like you help to place new candidates at companies, we save recruitment firms 30 hours a week on manual outreach to job postings. And by the way, I took that PS line from Eric Nowaslowski. If you watch his videos, you'd know that this was the thing to do back in August 2024, right? And for context, this is the exact email that I sent to Wave Talent. And spoiler alert, if you now go on my agency's website, which is b2bboosted.com, you will actually see the Wave Talent is now a good client of ours because we've set up this workflow amongst many other workflows for them already. And this is the exact use case which I'll be showing you now as use case number 2, which you can see right in front of your eyes right now. So as you can see over here, the template is called Scanning for Career Page and LinkedIn Jobs from a Company List. All it takes again is for you to just import a list of companies, and on the back of that, you just basically need to tweak a couple of prompts for Clayagent to find the open roles, which otherwise these recruitment firms will have to stay on top of manually. So in most cases, staffing agencies, recruitment agencies tend to literally go on LinkedIn, scroll through job boards, tend to go onto their current clients' websites and scroll through the company career pages just to see if there are new role openings. And so essentially all this use case is about is asking the client for a list of companies that they want to monitor for new job openings amongst. This can be past clients, this can be existing clients. On the back of that, you just need to clarify what open roles they want to be notified about. And then all it takes is just a Clayagent prompt where you just tell Clayagent, hey, go and check out Indeed and Glassdoor and this company's career page to see if there is a new job opening for this specific product role or for this specific design role from this specific company. And in some cases, people don't care about the companies that are hiring, they care about just the open roles, in which case, again, it's super simple to set up. I'll be giving away this exact template so that you can just have a look at what it looks like. And in this case, towards the end of this table, we just basically update a Google Sheet. And in this case, after that, they also get notified via Slack as well, directly from Clay, of any new jobs in the market. And all it takes in order for this specific client to basically run this, they just basically have to click on this button in the top left hand corner, then click on Actions and run all the rows. And as soon as they run the rows, in this case, obviously it costs them quite a lot of Clay credits, but you can also do it so that you connect external APIs, in which case the costs are basically like $200 a month if you don't count the cost of the Clay subscription. So it's an absolute no-brainer of an offer. And by the way, once again over here, we've got another email that I sent. It's literally the exact same email over here that you can see. And again, in this case, it goes from the prospect replying, is this done manually or is it automated, all the way through to me checking in, a month later. And you can see over here that we booked in a meeting and they closed as a client as well. So, okay, up to this point, we already covered 2 use cases. And as we discussed already, the first use case of poaching followers of competitors is especially appealing to any software companies. And the second use case of monitoring new jobs that are being listed amongst companies is appealing to any recruitment or staffing agencies out there. So already we have 2 target audiences to go after. We have 2 ideas of offers that we can test out. And more than that, you have the exact Clay templates. So even if you don't use Clay per se, even if you've never used Clay before, you can literally just see what the finished product looks like and then reverse engineer how to rebuild it in another tool, be it Claude Code or Cursor or whatever else. Okay guys, moving on to offer number 3. And this will be absolutely mind-blowing for any company out there that has over 1,000 website visitors on a monthly basis. And for this specific offer, I'll be showing you the exact thing that I have built out for a software company called HubForce, another testimonial client of ours over at my agency called B2B Boosted. So for the purpose of the third use case, I'll be using a tool called Knock 2. And if you're not familiar with Knock 2, it's basically a tool that enables you to identify any anonymous website visitors. And what that basically means is all you need to do is just install a pixel on your website. I've done a separate video on this. I'll make sure to link it as the second link in the description down below alongside all the other freebies. And basically all it takes is for you to install this pixel, which is free. You can get like up to a 1-month free trial with Knock 2. And in return, every single time that someone visits your website, you will be instantly notified inside of Slack. So in this case, you can see that Tammy Garcia visited my website at 5:24 in the morning, right? Or Sierra Roberts visited my website as well. And all of these are names of real people that have just visited my specific website. And all it takes is for you to install that pixel. Not many companies are aware that it's even like compliant or legally possible for you to actually track people who visit your website. But as you can imagine, it's quite a big play that we can do here. So we can create a clay table, for instance, and I'll show you a clay table that we have basically built for a client of ours called HubForce that I mentioned already. That's a testimonial client of ours. In their case, every single time that someone new visits the website, you can see over here triggers a webhook inside of clay. And then we go on to basically identify the main products of the company. We identify who they sell that product to. And on that basis, we basically then also identify the past company where that person worked. And there are a couple of fun plays here. And we send them some sort of personalized email. So essentially, there are two things at play here. The first option is you could just notify the sales team. So for example, you could set a task for the sales team to follow up on this specific lead via email or via LinkedIn. Or you can automate the entire process, which I've done in a separate video, which shows you how to connect Knock 2 over to clay.com. So this is offer number 3, and it works pretty much for anyone that has over 1,000 website visitors, specifically just from the United States, because this tool does not work across other regions, because it's basically illegal for you to track anonymous website visitors anywhere other than the United States. And by the way, just to show you the amount of time and effort that I spend on this, right? You can see I've got 3 different lead magnets that show you how to identify website visitors and how to contact them. This one has over 500 views, and I've created it, you can see, all the way back in 2024. So I'll be giving this one away, and it shows you how to basically set up another tool called RB2B. It gives you the exact clay table. It gives you the exact stats that we basically pulled off in that specific campaign of basically retargeting website visitors. It gives you the exact copy that you can send to those website visitors. So basically, you're almost just purchasing the entire service from me in return for just your email that you hopefully fill in when you get this lead magnet, which is the second link in the description down below. So anyways, if you're enjoying this video up to this point, please do me a massive favor, like this video, comment something nice, or just comment anything down below, maybe ask me a question about one of these workflows. It really helps me to understand like what you guys want to see from me, because as you can tell, my content sometimes changes from Clay to Claude Code to other things. So, you know, I'm trying different things. I just want to make sure that it's in line with what you guys are craving as well. So by now we talked about 3 different use cases, right? Followers of competitors, really good for software companies. Open role monitoring, great for recruitment companies. This third website visitor retargeting flow is really, really good pretty much for anyone with over 1,000 website visitors. And by the way, if you want to find out how many website visitors a company has at a given time, all you need to do is just download the SimilarWeb Chrome extension. And as soon as you download it, you can just click the Chrome extension in the browser on a company's website, and it will tell you how many website visitors that company is getting. So all it becomes is you can just basically reach out to that company and say, hey, I guess you get about 20,000 website visitors every month. Imagine if you can retarget like 70% of them, you will have over a couple of thousand more leads every single month. Can I set this up for you? Reply yes, and I'll send you a video before you decide whether it's worth a call or not, right? And a lot of people are not even familiar that such technology exists in the first place. All right, moving on to use case number 4. And this one is actually really, really good for any companies that post on LinkedIn about attending certain events. And on the basis of that, you can just basically reach out to them and say, hey, I can see you went to this specific event. What if we could scrape every single person that attended that event? We can basically enrich them with LinkedIn profiles, email addresses, and we can then qualify them for your ideal client profile. And on the back of that, we can reach out with a follow-up after the event to open up a conversation by referencing their attendance to that event in the first place. And what I've seen before, it's not as strong as the first 3 use cases that I showed you, but a lot of companies rely solely on events in order to generate new business because they're just so reliant on word of mouth and having a massive booth at an event. And a lot of companies would take you up on that. So you could be charging $2,500 for this, but in return, you should be scraping maybe 3 or 4 events, right? And by the way, there are 3 main ways that you can obtain the exact list of people that are attending a specific event. The first way for you to do that is to basically go on the website, and typically they will have a list of exhibitors or a list of companies that are attending. So in this case, I'm on possibleevent.com where all of the companies that are attending this event are. And all it takes for me is just to basically click on my Chrome extension. In this case, my Chrome extension is the instant data scraper. By the way, I have a separate video on how to use it, of course. And in this case, I can pull a list of every single company that's attending it. And all it will take for me now is to basically just go and paste this list into Claude. In Claude, I can basically then find the website URLs for each individual one of these companies. And then I can use a tool like Prospeo in order to find the people working on this company. And then we can reach out to them saying, oh, hey, are you attending this event in May by any chance, or in April by any chance? So that's the first way that you will typically pull the list of people that are attending, by just basically enriching the companies and then reverse engineering the people that are most likely attending it. The second option, and I learned this a couple of months ago when I didn't have any idea of how to scrape any of the people that are attending a specific event because it was so difficult. I basically reached out to the sales team of the event and I basically said, oh, hey, I'm looking to exhibit. Do you have any booths spare for me? And then also at the same time, do you mind just sharing like a little sample of people that are attending, just so that I can see if there is a big crossover with our ICP? And basically in return for that, they basically send me like a huge CSV file with the people attending. That event was Legal Week in New York, and now I have a list of people that attend that event completely for free. And the third way that you can pull the lists of people attending any event in the world pretty much would cost you a bit of your profit margins when it comes to offering this as a service, but there is a website called Pull a List, which gets you the list of people that are attending any event. No idea how they get that sorted, but the pricing is pretty brutal with them. I actually used them once or twice as well. They charge about $300 for standard delivery, and they charge you about $500, for delivery within 48 hours, which is pretty good. It's basically just a way to outsource your service to a third party to scrape those people that are attending an event. And by the way, if you're wondering how you can find a list of people that basically post about attending a specific event, it's pretty straightforward. All you would need to do is just go get a free account with Trigify. The reason I say free is because technically they have a 2-week free trial. So in this case, all you would do is enter Trigify, go into build, and all you would need to do is just type in, I want to see LinkedIn posts about people attending in-person conferences in the US and posting about it on LinkedIn. And on top of that, all we need to do is just click on this enter thing, and it's basically like an LLM that will enable you to then build this entire social listening workflow. And by the way, you could probably sell social listening workflows on top of it whilst you're at it, but it's pretty straightforward. Basically, you'll just ask you a bunch of follow-up questions, and you can actually just then have a list of people that you can see are posting about attending events, and that way you can then retarget them, because typically they would be going to these events every single year. So you can look at like historic listings of them basically posting about it 9 months ago, meaning that hopefully in 3 months' time, they go and attend that event once again. All right, guys, just a quick question before we get going with the rest of the video. Everything, literally everything that I'm showing to you throughout this video, the use cases, the outreach templates, the clay tables, the entire system, I've packaged it up so you can take it and literally run with it. The free lead magnet is going to be the second link in the description down below underneath the video, and it's probably the best starting point if you're new to this GTM engineering and agency space. Download it now. It literally takes maybe 15 seconds at a push. And by the way, if you do want to go and take it a bit further, my new Unlocked GTM community is the top link in the description down below underneath the video. That's where you get access literally to all of my advanced go-to-market courses, over 50 different sales tool discounts, extended free trials, and offers that are not available to the public usually, and it contains literally everything that I've built over the last 3 years of running my own agency business and teaching over 1,000 people in the process. And yes, it covers everything ranging from how to land new clients all the way through to delivering a top-notch GTM service, and numerous folks have even gone on to land really good GTM engineer roles on the back of joining my community. And anyways, before I get absolutely sunburnt here, let's get on with the rest of the video. Okay, cool. So that's 4 use cases covered. Moving on to use case number 5. For the purpose of this one, I have a really crap visualization of this, so I have to admit that in advance. But the use case that I'll be showing you right now is new hire and job change monitoring across your total addressable market. So if you think about it, in most cases, companies have a lot of CRM contacts, and typically they have no way of knowing if a specific contact has changed jobs, which creates a new sales opening for them. So for instance, take the example of Jane Doe, which is obviously like a fake new hire over here. So take the example of Jane. She may have worked for Adidas before, and now she moves to start working for Reebok, for instance. In this case, if I'm the client, I want to stay on top of that, and I want to know about this job change. So there are numerous different ways that you can set this up. Most commonly, all it takes is for you to back up the CRM data so that you basically have a list of every single contact within your client's CRM. You would then just basically import them into a tool like clay.com or into Superbase or into something of that sort, and you can just run a Clayagent enrichment or a enrich profile enrichment using a tool like Prospio, for instance, in order to enrich the profile and see if that person still works for the past company or if they change jobs. And then on the back of that, all it is you can trigger some outreach to them saying, oh, hey, I saw you moved on from this role to this role. Curious, do you have a similar need for our product or service? And that's the kind of thing that you can set up on behalf of your clients for over $2,500, because not only does it mean that your client's CRM is more up to date, but also it means that you can trigger a new lead generation campaign for them. And that way you're not in the super saturated just lead generation as a service space. Instead, you're trying to productize this and you're trying to sell this as separate different components. And by the way, in case of this sounds a lot more complicated and a lot more abstract than the other use cases, don't worry, because super soon I'll be releasing a new RevOps and CRM course where I basically share all of my learnings of implementing tools like Clay and Claude Code alongside CRMs like Attio, Loxo, and HubSpot. So if you do want to learn all of that fun stuff, just make sure that you're inside of the Unlocked GTM community. Again, I'll drop a link to the community down below. I'll drop a link to the waitlist down below as well, so you can check those out in your own time. Okay guys, moving on to use case number 7. In this one, I'll be showing you how I implemented a productized service whereby we're retargeting social engagers of competitors on LinkedIn. And this is basically just a simple way of saying that all we did was we entered Trigify. Inside of Trigify, if you go to build over here, you should be able to see that they give you the option to capture thought leader audiences. And in this case, let's imagine that for example, I post something on LinkedIn. So let's just go onto my LinkedIn profile real quick. Let's imagine I want to go and scrape the 168 people that basically liked this post and the 300 people that commented on this post with a questionable image of me over here. All I would need to do is just go to Trigify. Over here, click on Capture Thought Leader Audiences. Basically, it will automatically trigger this prompt. And I would just need to basically add the name of the thought leader and the product category and just connect that into a tool like clay.com, whereby this becomes an evergreen campaign in theory, which automatically triggers the webhook to run. And on the back of that, every single time that someone engages with a competitor of mine, I can basically retarget them. I can then find their emails. I can make sure that they're not in the do not contact list. And on the back of that, I can then send them a personalized email saying, oh, hey, I noticed you follow this guy called Rory or this guy called Alex or this guy called Andy, for instance. And then you can just basically retarget any audience that fits your ideal client profile. And again, you can even bundle this together with a Poach followers of competitors play because it's somewhat similar. But this one is a bit more active because it's ongoing as well, because the webhook can be triggered every single time that someone engages with your competitors' LinkedIn posts. And you can sell this to pretty much anyone that posts on LinkedIn, because typically they will have some competitors whose audience they want to tap into. And spoiler alert, by the way, in case if you're wondering why my YouTube channel is growing a bit faster right now than before, it's because I'm hammering out 30,000 emails towards the post engagers of my direct competitors on LinkedIn, and that way I hopefully get a few more eyeballs on some of the videos like this one. So that's use case number 7. I understand that I covered some of these use cases not in so much detail, but I will be giving away the exact templates so you can just have a look at those and reverse engineer them in your own time. And then on top of that, I have done previous videos on how to set up these Trigify social signal stuff that I've just showed you, for instance. So it's really not rocket science. And if you do want to see all of these tutorials in a coherent step-by-step format, I'm going to spend probably like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes of my time over this weekend just to put this together into a nice, beautiful guide for you. Again, this will be the second link in the description. I promise you I'll be quiet about plugging my resources throughout this video, but again, I just need to mention it a couple of times so more people actually click on it, right? Okay, guys, so by now we covered the top 7 use cases. In my opinion, these use cases that I covered already are the simplest use cases out there. They're a lot less saturated than just offering cold email as a service, than just doing lead generation as a service, because at least you position it as a productized service rather than you just sending random emails at 10,000 leads. Now moving on to offer number 8. For this one, you can see the copy right in front of your eyes of the exact email that I've sent out in order to land a client for this specific service. In this case, it just starts off with some fancy personalization. Again, all you need to do in order to pull off that kind of personalization is use a tool like Twain.ai, and it naturally personalizes like that. Like, you don't need to be a prompt engineering or B2B direct response copywriting wizard in order to pull this off. So you can just read the email for yourself right now, and I'll then explain the offer to you. So if you think about it, there are thousands, if not millions of businesses out there that sell software for brick and mortar and local businesses. So for example, was an old client of ours called Two Front. They were selling their services to dental practices. In their case, it was virtually impossible to reach out to dental practices using cold email because typically these dental practices are not on LinkedIn and they're not on main databases like Apollo or LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that's where an offer like this comes into play. And the main offer you can read over here. We basically just need to email a bunch of these software companies that sell into brick and mortar, and we just say something like this. You likely tried tracking down, and then we can insert in brackets the ICP of, the kind of businesses that they want to reach out to. And we can say something like this. You tried sourcing lead lists of dental practices using Apollo or Sales Navigator, but those tools rarely surface the right leads for these specific businesses. Do you want me to share some of those leads that fit your ideal client profile within that specific niche of local businesses in brick and mortar? All it takes is a free call in order for you to get a list of like 500 people or a couple of hundred people or whatever it is. In my case, I say 5,000 verified leads because I've got this template, which is pretty cheap to run. And basically we just use Serpent Dev in order to basically scrape a bunch of local businesses, which makes it really, really cheap. So in this case, all it is, the main offer that we're selling is basically the offer to scrape local businesses from Google Maps. On the back of that, we would just use a agent enrichment in order to find the main decision makers of the business, and then we can find their email addresses and reach out to them with a personalized email. And you can see how this works in practice. Again, it's just one super simple Clay template that you can use. Again, if you want to use something like Claude code as well, you can replicate this inside of Claude code. All you would need to do is just scrape a bunch of different locations for a specific keyword. On the back of that, you'll just basically pull up a list of your ICP businesses. And then on the back of that, you just find the full names of the decision makers, find their email addresses, validate them. And then on the back of that, you can send them into Outreach. So it's pretty straightforward to pull off. And in this case, the beauty of this specific offer is the fact that literally no one is competing for those leads that try to sell software to local businesses and brick and mortar, because it's just so difficult to pull off and not many people are aware of how you could scrape those local businesses. And again, if you want to see the Claude artifact, which basically walks you through how to get brick and mortar leads, it basically summarizes everything from how you can source the companies all the way through to how to find the right contacts, how to research each person in the company, how to write personalized copy, and how to basically offer this as a service. Again, I've packaged this all up. You'll be inside of that second link in the description down below. And I know they may seem like I've got the answers to each one of those offers, and it's just because I've spent the last 3 years basically selling those 10 offers for most of my clients. So hence I have so much information about this and so much social proof that I can show throughout this video. Alright guys, let's talk about offer number 9. For this one, I think the easiest way to offer this is to use a tool called Unlock Growth Machine. The reason for that is pretty straightforward. You can basically reach out to a bunch of software companies and say, hey, I'll set up a multi-channel outbound system for you using a mix of LinkedIn, cold emails, AI voice notes, and AI videos, whereby you can, record one voice note and one video, and then AI personalizes for each individual prospect. And to be totally honest with you, that's what every single random freelancer and newbie to the agency space is doing. And that's the one thing that I recommend for you not to do. However, it's one of those many offers, like I've tested this out across a lot of clients. It does convert in some industries. However, you really need to hammer a lot of emails out in order to generate some meetings for this kind of offer. However, if you do sell it, it's quite an easy one to set up because all you basically need to do is set up a Growth Machine account. In this case, you just get a client to connect their LinkedIn accounts. You can buy domains. You can connect your mailboxes and domains straight into the Growth Machine. You get them to record one video, one voice message, and then on the back of that, you just basically can use AI in order to send out voice messages to every individual lead. And the videos for that, you may need to use a third-party tool like SendSpark. And these are the exact prospects that are super hyped up already about the potential of AI for video prospecting, voice notes, and cold outreach. That's just by you mentioning the ability to connect all of these platforms into one coherent workflow, they will probably take you up on a demo just for that. Okay, and finally, the offer number 10 is a bit more complex. It's something that I'm working on right now behind the scenes, but I just thought to shed some light to it because it's a bit more complicated than the other offers on the market, and it's not as saturated in my opinion. And it's a lot simpler to deliver this than cold outreach, because typically with cold outreach, you will have quite a bit of churn after the first 3 months, after the first 6 months of onboarding a given client. For the purpose of this one, I'll be talking about your ability to connect Clay to a CRM of choice. So the CRM can be Attio, can be Loxo, can be HubSpot, can be any of those CRMs that I just mentioned. And all it is you reach out to a company, you say, hey, I bet you have a CRM where you have a bunch of email addresses that are probably outdated by now, people that have moved jobs, LinkedIn profiles that are empty, email addresses that are empty or invalid. Do you mind if I just go and validate all of those email addresses for you? And then if that works well, we can talk about how we can basically streamline and operationalize your CRM so that it basically synchronizes in real time and it's updated in real time as soon as a person leaves a company and so on. And by the way, before you call me out on this and you say, hey, but Tim, isn't it so expensive to just validate a bunch of emails as an offer in order to add value to a client before agreeing to like a bigger project? In my opinion, it's never been cheaper to actually validate emails. And if you watched any of my past videos from before, you would know that I absolutely love this tool called the Reon Email Verifier from AppSumo. All it is you pay $80 and for your entire lifetime, you get this email verifier. So in this case, you have 100,000 lifetime credits for the email verifier, and you can also verify up to 500 contacts every single day in return for $79. Of course, if you've got a bit more money to spend, you can probably go crazy on this. Spend $300. That way you have over 3,000 credits per day, and you have over 500,000 email verifications on top of that as well. And just to tie this back into this 10th offer that we were talking about, the offer behind this is quite simple. Hey, you have a CRM. I bet you have a bunch of leads with invalid emails. Can I validate them for you? That's your foot in the door. As soon as you get your foot in the door, they have to share their CRM access with you, right, in order for you to verify those emails. On top of that, you can then call them out on the amount of people where they have missing LinkedIn profiles, they have missing email addresses, some people that are definitely not in the same role as before, and on that basis, it creates an opportunity for an upsell. However, this is one of those things that I'm working on right now. I have a couple of clients for who I'm offering this as a service, and after I'm super confident with my learnings from this, I'll be sharing this inside of the Unlocked GTM community with you guys. Okay guys, by now we talked about the 10 different offers that I very much recommend for you guys to try out to sell for over $2,500. This brings me really nicely to now talk about who you can sell some of these offers to and what kind of platforms you should be using in order to pull this off. So in my opinion, I'm just going to share the 3 main ways that you can get clients pretty fast. The first way is if you go and find solution-aware buyers. Typically, these are the buyers that typically engage with or follow tools like Clay, like NA10, like Anthropic on LinkedIn, for example, right? That's a common sense thing. And by the way, on top of that, like I know I referenced Trigify a couple of times. I'm not really affiliated with them. Like I know the Trigify team pretty well, but I genuinely love their tool for this specific purpose. And in my opinion, if you had to choose like one specific tool in order to source your lead list from, if I were you, go take out a free trial with Trigify, message their support team begging for an extension of your free trial up to 30 days if possible. And on the back of that, you should be able to basically capture a bunch of people that engage with a specific keyword. So for example, you could create a lead list of people that engage with Clay as a keyword, or a list of founders that engage with Clay and NA10 content. In that case, you know that they're already solution aware and they're also problem aware because they know what problems Clay and NA10 and these kind of tools solve. So in this case, I know it's quite broad, it's quite generic. However, in my opinion, the best kind of lead list that you can build is either targeting people that follow these tools or who engage with some sort of social content around these tools. And by the way, just a quick spoiler alert, I've just decided midway through recording this video that I'm going to be giving away over 5,000 followers of Clay.com completely for free for anyone that joins the Unlocked GTM community after watching this video. So if you want to take me up on that, just DM me inside of the Circle community as soon as you're inside, and I'll make sure to send you a list of over 5,000 followers of Clay. And on top of that, I can even send you another couple of thousand followers of Clay who are also recruiters. And this brings me very nicely to the next point of if you literally go on any database like Apollo, Prospeo, AI Arc, or anything of that sort, if you just filter for founders of staffing and recruitment firms, this is the exact target audience that I've been going after over the last 2 years or so, and we've worked with over 30 different staffing agencies. And from my experience, recruiters are a lot easier to sell than anyone else. And again, if you want to reference some of the copy that I used in order to close some recruitment clients, I'll be adding the screenshots on the screen right now, so you can look at this screenshot and you can look at this screenshot as well, and it's literally the exact same copy every single time. So let's just get things straight. If you want a list of those followers and social engagers and so on, that will be available inside of the Unlocked GTM community. It's a super affordable community. I'll make sure to add the link to the waitlist down below or the link to the website down below so you can check it out in your own time, depending on when you're watching it. And this brings me really nicely to talk to you about how you can sell these services. Simply put, for this, all I recommend for you to do is go and clone this Closer sales script that I've put together. And I have used this sales script over the last 5 years to sell everything ranging from African payment gateways all the way through to market research solutions and now lead generation and go-to-market and revenue operation services. So I'd like to say that this is a pretty generic sales script. It covers all the bases. It basically gives you a great structure to go into a sales call with, and above all, it makes sure that you're in charge of the agenda rather than the prospects, and that way you have a clear to-do list on the call, and you can basically ask the right questions, discover the right pain points, and on the back of that, close the prospects in a consultative way, which is not as passive aggressive as like the challenger style of sales, if you're familiar with that as well. And for context, it's absolutely crazy. I remember a year ago recording this video about the Closer sales script and how to use it. It now has over 1,000 views. And given that I posted it a year ago when I probably had like 20 subscribers, that just speaks to how good it is. So go check out that video. I'll make sure to link it alongside all of the other resources. But that should get you really, really confident in front of prospects on that first sales call. Really briefly then, let's now talk about how you can price and how you can package your services. For the purpose of this, realistically, if it's your first project, you have no social proof, you've never done this for anyone else before, what I recommend you do is as follows. I recommend you calculate the raw costs of what it will cost you in terms of sales tools in order to pull this off. So for example, you would need a Clay subscription, you would need a Smart Lead subscription, you would need like a Claude subscription, right? Just as an example. You will then mark it up with about 66%, maybe 50%, so that at least you're charging double the amount of the raw cost of tools alone. And that's how you would arrive at your price. I know the title of this video is $2,500. Realistically, for some of you that are confident when speaking to prospects, you can absolutely charge $2,500 for this kind of service that we talked about. However, for those of you that are just breaking into the scene, and let's say your hourly rate right now may be like $10 or $15, I highly recommend that you basically just look at the raw cost of tools, increase it by 50%, and then invoice that to the client. Always make sure that you charge upfront for your services, not upon the delivery of the services, because otherwise it just encourages bad cash flow. And realistically, the better clients always pay upfront, at the very least from my experience. And trust me, I've been burnt on this numerous times before. I actually remember one client where they still owe me £3,400 to this day, which is $5,000, which was a substantial amount at the time. And back then it was one of those moments where like I almost went broke at that time because I wasn't paid on time. And this was about 2.5 years ago when I was just starting out my agency. So again, just make sure you always charge up front. And typically the way that you calculate the cost of tools is you can just basically feed all of the different tools to Claude. And then you could say, hey, like how much would it cost me to run 5,000 contacts or 3,000 contacts through the specific list of tools? You'll then create the pricing for you, and you can ask Claude to be prudent on top of that, and then it will basically arrive at that final pricing. On top of that, there are various other different pricing and packaging options that you have at your disposal as well. If you're super confident, if you have some track record, a retainer model could be possible as well. In this case, typically you would charge like, I don't know, $1,500 or $1,000 or $500 retainers as well. Depends on how advanced you are, and of course, everyone will be talking about the importance of MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and that's why everyone absolutely loves charging retainers. But in reality, your churn will be a lot higher, meaning that people will likely just basically use you for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, and then just dip after that. So for that reason, I don't think if you're starting out, a retainer is my recommended option. Some other businesses charge like a setup fee and a per lead fee thereafter. In my opinion, it's just not the most efficient structure, because that way, beyond the setup fee, you're not really making that much of a margin thereafter. And then if you're charged per lead, you just basically become a performance agency, in which case you might as well just get a bunch of clients on a setup fee and just ditch them thereafter, right? So I don't really understand the setup and per lead fee model. However, there are some businesses like leadbird.io, and they charge you like basically a flat setup fee and then a pay per lead basis afterwards. Of course, I'm sure the other pricing options you're super familiar with, things like hourly consulting at a point at which you can charge anywhere from like $10, $20, $50 upwards. With hourly coaching as well, that's another cool avenue that you can pursue after you implement some of these GTM services. You can then basically coach people on how to basically implement some of these tools as well. Again, I cover all of these. I'll be giving away the slides for you guys to check out in your own time as well. And there are, of course, costs and benefits associated with each one. Now, ultimately, my recommendation when it comes to private pricing for you is as follows. I recommend that you always charge an upfront build-out fee. That can be in the region of $500 up to $1,000 if that's your first ever project. Rather than positioning it as, hey, this is this silver bullet thing that will 100% work, I very much recommend that instead you position it as a proof of concept or a pilot before committing to a higher fee build out. And in this case, you just basically create milestones whereby by the end of week 1, we do the onboarding. By the end of week 2, we basically set up that workflow. By the end of week 3, we do the first iteration. By the end of week 4, we finish the second iteration, and then we wrap up the project. And that way you have milestones and deliverables both for yourself and for the client. And regardless how slow the client is throughout those 30 days, you wrap up the project within the 30 days, which obviously incentivizes the clients to be more responsive throughout and to basically give you the iterations, the feedback that you need in order to tailor the workflow to the client. Looking back at it, some of my earliest clients, for example, Cargo Plug, Jan2GD, and a couple of other companies like Global Moderation Services that are still on testimonials on my agency's website to this day. The way that we turned some of these first projects into referrals and retainers later down the line was pretty straightforward. On that first initial sales call that I did with them, I said, hey, I believe I have a talent for this kind of stuff. I believe I'm on top of all the tools. I know all of the trends. I know how to connect all of this fun stuff. However, you're my first ever project. For that reason, I want to use your testimonial, your case study, and your honest review of work on a lot of marketing collateral later down the line. That's why I can afford to basically offer this for $500 or $1,000, rather than outsourcing this to a random agency where the work is done by 10 different employees otherwise. And then that way, those initial customers become your referees, right? Whenever you need to reference someone in a proposal deck, you can reference them. You can ask them for warm introductions, you can have their logo on your website, and that's basically how you get more social proof and more credibility in the early days. The other thing to keep in mind as well, you really need to agree the metric of success after that 30-day pilot, whether that's just getting 3 or 5 leads or positive replies, whether that's just the prospect saving a lot of time of, not having to do that work manually otherwise, but you really need to understand what that key metric of success is when delivering that specific service. And just to wrap this up, in my opinion, the easiest offer that you can sell for over $2,500 pretty much to any business within the exact same industry is the job posting chasing for sales teams. It basically just automatically finds new job listings across the total addressable market of a given recruitment agency. It identifies the hiring manager and personalizes an email and sends the verified phone number directly to the sales team. Again, I've got a separate YouTube video that shows that. I'll make sure to spend probably like the next hour, realistically speaking, just grabbing all of these resources in order to package them into the guide. And you can just see an example on the right-hand side over here of the exact email that I sent out in order to land another client. And I just basically copied and pasted it this time because it was just a bit harder to read. And there we are. It's pretty straightforward. So essentially your path to your first ever $2,500 client is pretty straightforward. Decide which of these workflows you want to sell, pick who you want to sell to, just go source that lead list on a company level, on a person level, enrich it, qualify it, and then personalize the outreach, similar to the templates that I've provided throughout this video already. You can then improvise with the pricing, just make sure that you stick to one specific pricing model that we talked about, and then you can lock in referrals. You can even give them like 10% kickback on referrals as well, and agree on the metric before you actually sign that client. Everything that we just covered in this video is just the tip of the iceberg. However, it does give you a clear roadmap on how you can land your first GTM client and start building some real recurring revenue with your tool of choice, be it Clay or Claude Code. But here is where most people get stuck. They watch the video, they get super excited, and then they sit down only to realize that they don't know how to build out Clay tables properly, or they don't know what a Claude.md file even is. That's not to mention that they have no idea about how to run a sales call without fumbling the pricing conversation or creating a killer proposal and eventually onboarding the client. And I'm sure you understand where I'm going going with this. There are a ton of challenges that you will come across as you land your first client. For example, not even knowing how to deliver the project in a way that gets the clients to come back to you for recurring services and to refer their friends and colleagues to you as well. And of course, you can spend weeks, if not months, going through endless trial and error while someone else is already landing the client that you could have had by now. And that's exactly why I built the Unlocked GTM community. It's every advanced course I've put together on how to become a GTM engineer, all the tools involved, Claude Code, NA10, Cursor, Clay, the exact systems you would need in order to offer such services, all in one place. And yes, it's the exact same stuff that I used in order to build my own agency and now that I packaged so that you can skip the painful parts and just get to the results faster. As I mentioned a billion times already, just go check out the Unlocked GTM community. It will be the top link in the description down below. And either way, to be totally honest, I'm really glad that you stayed up until the end of this video. The video popping up on your screen right now will be my totally free 3-hour Claude Code course. And if you're serious about getting good at Claude Code really fast, that's exactly the video where you should go to next. Watch it, come back, and you'll be ready to execute literally everything that we covered today. Anyways, I'll see you in that video. Double check that you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.